Hello everyone. So welcome to the next session in our Indian modern history course, and today we'll be dealing with the second session in our theme 3. Our theme 3 focuses on the Indian reaction, right? That we have discussed the context in the first session. Now today's session will be one of the watershed events we'll discuss, that is 1857 revolt. Watershed in a sense that from 1757 after the Battle of Plassey to 1857, that is the revolt, a lot of things will change, and obviously that's the reason why UPSC has asked was question upon it regarding the 1857 revolt being a watershed event, right? So we will discuss that, and in the next session we'll talk about the how it you can say that it was a watershed. Today we'll talk about only 1857 revolt. So before doing that, there is one thing that I have to amend. I'm really sorry. For example, the Munda revolt was not in 1800, rather it was 1900. So that is after your 1857 revolt. All the causes that we have discussed, everything remains the same, just the time changes. That's it, nothing else. You have the cult personality, because in the tribal areas, nothing changed, to be honest. And we have a lot of tribal reports that we have read, but Munda revolt was not one of the tribal revolts that have taken place before 1857. It took place in 1800s and in the 1900s. Okay, so please keep this thing in mind. Please amend in your notes. Now, last time we talked about the Indian reaction to the British rule. We have talked about how the British rule was oppressive in terms of economy, in terms of the administration, the polity. Will revise that as well when we'll discuss about the causes of the 1857 revolt. In the last session, we talked about the traditional revolts that were there. For example, we talked about the tribal revolt, peasants and civilian revolts. And I said that I'll discuss the Sepoy revolt today. So first we'll discuss the general Sepoy revolts. It was not that 1857 final big Sepoy revolt has happened, but there were a lot of revolts of these soldiers in the British Army, Indian native soldiers, which have been happening before that as well. First, let us discuss that. Before that, let us discuss one question. Now, I told you in the prelims, you can be asked one of the chronology-based questions. So one of the questions you can be asked like this. For example, consider the following tribal movements: Santhal rebellion under Sidhu versus N. Kanhu, Munda rebellion under Birsa Munda, uprising by Kols of Chota Nagpur. Which of the following is the correct chronological sequence of the above given movements? You are please pause the session and try to answer the question. A relatively straightforward question, right? Straightforward as in they just want you to know the chronology and arrange that. Now that is why I told you one of the years of these revolts are very significant, especially the Santhalan and Munda rebellion. Now, obviously we have read Santhal rebellion 1856, 55 to 56. I'm not getting into the contents of it. I put the content, you can revise it again. All the content have been previously taught. Munda rebellion, as we have amended this session, 1899 to 1900. And the last one, that was Cole. It was, I have written at 1831. That's from 1820 to 37. This is the range. So the ranges are more or less clear. So for example, Santhal in 1855-56, Munda in this, and Cole is this. So you can arrange it first. It will be Coles, then it will be Santhals, and then finally it will be Munda. So you can expect such questions, and they can add one to two more events in that. Now, let us start the today's session. After the session, we'll talk about we'll discuss few more questions. First, discuss what is the discontent with the sepoys. We have discussed that what are the contents with the peasants, what are the contents with the overall people. Discontent with the sepoys, some specific and some general. Some specific were, for example, you can imagine the discrimination in the payments and the promotions. So their payment will not be increased periodically. They're less paid, work more. Promotions they are focusing too much on the English officers. Highest posts are being kept for the English officers. So you can say racial discrimination was there. Then the mistreatment by the British officials, whether you call it racial slurs or anything. So a lot of mistreatment was being done. You can say disproportionate punishments were given. You can write that. Okay? Refusal of the government to pay the foreign service. just one second. Disproportionate punishments were given. Then refusal of the government to pay the foreign service allowance. For example, if you are on foreign service, let's say you're fighting a war in Afghanistan, you're fighting a war in Sindh, but you're not given a due allowance for it, allowance for it. So you do not get this batta while fighting remote areas. So this was a cause of discontent. Then a lot of religious objections were also there. For example, it was believed in the higher caste in Hindus that they should not cross the seas. Now, the Service Enlistment Act of Lord Canning, Journalist Service Enlistment Act of Lord Canning, says that the sepoys can be made to fight wars within or outside India as well. So it hurted the higher caste sentiments. Remember, higher caste, because lower caste have no such obligation, but higher caste, they have the belief that if they cross the sea, they will lose their caste. So it was, you can say, their own socio religious belief, which to which the British have paid no sensitivity per se. Hence, we can say, and apart from these reasons, which are specific in nature, all the problems being faced by the people, peasants and civilians, we have discussed that. All the problems were faced by them also, because they are said in the Bipin Chandra book, they are peasants in uniform. They are the peasants. For example, one sepoy is there, but his family is doing the peasantry. He belongs to a particular socio-economic, cultural, socio-economic milieu, isn't it? So whatever, for example, if my father, I am serving in an army, but my father is being threatened, my father is facing a lot of problem, he has to pay very exaggerated rents. So obviously the problems will be there in my mind as well. So these were the discontents with the sepoys, which it was seen. And obviously, if you have discontentment, it will be showcased in a lot of ways. For example, very famous mutiny happened in Vellore. We have discussed in the times of the William Bentinck. So Vellore mutiny took place by, for example, replacement of turban by a leather cockade caused by mutiny in the Vellore. So for example, in the Vellore, they've said that you cannot wear this turban. So soldiers were very unhappy with respect to that. That why are you interfering in our socio-cultural symbols or anything like that? Isn't it? Then in 1824, sepoys at Barakpur rose in revolt when they were asked to go to Burma, because crossing the sea would mean the loss of the caste. So the Barakpur mutiny, it is known as, right? So these were the reasons for the small mutinies. From the mains perspective, for the prelims perspective, no, nothing specific mutinies will be asked. From prelims perspective, only these two mutinies are important. Let's say Vellore mutiny and your mutiny in the Barakpur. So you need to remember the dates, 1824 and 1806. Otherwise, more than that, all the mutinies are not required. For the mains itself, you can remember 2 to 3 mutinies, that's it. So as to highlight the fact that 1857 revolt was not the first time the sepoys have mutinied. It was not the first time that they went against the Britishers. We have the instances which were being done earlier as well. Okay? Chalo. Now let us come to this is being the sepoy mutiny. Let's come to the revolt of the 1857. Now any revolt or any big thing that happens, for example, World War I, for example, Naxalbari movement, any big thing that happens that have two causes. First, are subjective causes, which are the long-term grievances that will create subjective conditions. For example, let us give an analogy. For example, in World War I, the subjective causes were, I think we have discussed that. In World War I, subjective causes were, let's say, quest for the colonies, a lot of colonies, the imperial urges of the countries, Western countries, the secret alliances. These were the subjective causes. And then you need a trigger point. So you are creating a lot of fuel, and just you need finally one trigger point to go for the revolt. And there will be a lot of trigger points, one or two trigger points. Now for this 1857 revolt, the long-term grievances, as we have discussed, we'll discuss it again. There were a lot of long-term grievances. For example, economic grievances, the same Rahul, Rahatwari, Mahalwari, and all these things that we have discussed. Socio-cultural, socio-religious grievances that they're interfering into our religion. For example, the work of the Christian missionaries. I don't like it. We don't like it. Why they want to change us to Hindus to Christians? Why they are interfering into our customs such as sati, female infanticide, widow remarriage? Why they are doing so? They should not do so. They are here to trade. They should trade. They are here to rule. They should rule. Why they're interfering into our socio-economic life? So we'll discuss those long-term grievances or subjective causes, then the trigger point. Trigger point was, you must have heard, right, from childhood, right? From 8 to 9 class. This is one thing which we all know, right? One cartridge has to be opened by mouth, and that cartridge was allegedly being made up of both beef and pork. So they believe that in doing so, their religion is in danger, both Hindus and Muslims. Now, let us discuss the subjective causes first. The first one in administrative and economic causes. Economic causes we all know: deindustrialization, ruralization, the stress increased, and every point will come under it. If you have to explain it, the same points will come in again and again, and we will spend considerable amount of time on that. Zamindars, their land are taken away. Now these zamindars are working as a beggar. They became a literally beggar because now they don't have any income. If they're not able to pay required amount of the land revenue to the Britishers, the Britisher will take away the land from them, and they will give the land to someone else. They will become kind of a beggar because they don't have any money now. Within the administration, corruption was very high among the police and the officials. There was no chance of the promotions for the Indians. Racial abuse was there. So these are the problems with the administration. Karl Marx, who was alive at that time, he also commented on 1857 revolt, and he talked about the economic exploitation which was there done by the Britishers. Right? So you can read, it was the British blunder who broke up the Indian handloom and destroying the spinning wheel. England began with depriving the Indian cottons from European market. Then it introduced the twist into the Hindustan, and in the end, it donated the very mother country of cottons with cottons. That means they have put cotton into the India, which is the mother of cotton, which Karl Marx says. Let us discuss the political causes. Now, political causes you can also see the rulers, for example. For example, in the Lord Dalhousie, we have discussed on the pretext of the misgovernance, he has taken the Nawab of Awadh out, annexed on the pretense of the subsidiary alliance. What are the problems being caused? The doctrine of lapse, very, very you can say very humiliating or very intrusive policy by the Britishers. So they have the greedy policy of aggrandizement, annexations on any cons. So local rulers were not happy with respect to that. One recent thing happened, that is the abolition of regal rights. For example, Mughals were humbled when the Prince Farrukuddin death in 1856, whose succession has been recognized conditionally by Lord Dalhousie. We know that Lord Dalhousie was the one who said that we will approve your succession. Lord Canning announced that the next prince of the succession would have to renounce the legal title and ancestral Mughal palaces, in addition to the renunciation already agreed upon Prince Farrukuddin. Means now they have to renounce their regal right as well. Emperor. They cannot have this title now. And this was again very humiliating for the Mughals. Now for Mughals, it was humiliating, and it also humiliating for Indians as well. Because as we will see that Indians still believe that Mughals were the rightful authority or the one of the most powerful authority that still exists in India. Because the Mughals have ruled India over the period of 1 to 200 years, isn't it? From 1526 to 1626, 1726, 1826. So more than 300 years. Mughals have been there, a constant in Delhi. Absentee sovereignty was seen. What is the absentee sovereignty? The idea of the absentee sovereignty, that this EIC is sovereign or the British are sovereign. They are ruling over us, but they are not present. We can see only chaos and nothing else. When you are a sovereign, you enter into a social contract. They protect you from all the, let's say, disasters, but they don't do so. The famines are happening, people are dying, everything chaotic is there. So these are the political causes. Then the socio-religious clauses, we have discussed that how prohibition of infanticide, sati, and we have discussed that the second phase of the socio-economic policy, right? So Christian machinery is converting, did not like it. Interference in the socio-religious domain, did not like it. They start to tax this temple and the mosque, they did not like it. So it was kind of a jizya, isn't it? So Religious Disability Act, which modified the Hindu custom, for example, declaring the change in the religion, did not debar a son from inheriting the property of his father. For example, if I want to change my religion, now there may be traditions, early tradition, that if you change your religion, you will not get the property of your father. British said, no, no, you can also get your property. So they made this conversions easy, isn't it? Why the people do not convert? Because they will deprive them of their property, let's say. Now they have delisted that. No, no, you can be converted without any consequences on yourself. And this all things were resented by the people. Then the military causes we have read, why the sepoys were not happy. The same problem: racial discrimination, salary and allowances were less, lack of special privileges. Earlier, such as paikas, we have seen that they were given the lands as jagirs. Now no longer lands as jagirs are given. So they also face these kind of problem. They were forced to serve in Burma and Afghanistan. Now because of these reasons, because of these subjective conditions, problems have come. More problems also came because now the British rule relied on the idea of the British invincibility, that British are invincible. Nobody can fight the Britishers and nobody can defeat the Britishers. Now, this idea also got some dent. For example, we have discussed the first Afghan war. You remember the Sindh and the Afghan relationship. In the first Afghan war, also, the Britishers were badly defeated, humiliated. In the Punjab wars, also, it was a very bloody battles and they suffered a lot of losses. For example, we have discussed a few battles. Then Crimean wars in the Crimea, in the world history, they also suffered. So it goes to show that these are not invincible. And the psychologically, it has given the confidence to the Indians or the sepoys that these people are not invincible and we can fight them out. So that British invincibility got dent as well. Okay? This led to these are the subjective causes for your for your revolt. Now, let us come to this Cartridge. Let us see a scene from a Hindi movie. What it was actually. For example, let us see. This is the new rifle. He's saying that it is the best rifle in the world. Now he is showcasing the rifle and he is trying to showcase that what you have to do to get to or to basically use this rifle. So for example, let us see what he will do. And now the new cartridge has come. This is the cartridge. Now it consists of the gunpowder and the lead, and this is how you are supposed to open it. You pick up the cartridge and bite the end off. You just pick the end off, something like that, and then you pour it into the rifle, and then you do all the necessary rest of the necessary thing, and then you go for this. Now this was one of the causes, or this is how they have done what. Now the Indians are watching it. Now the movie scenes before that also showcases that a dog, for example, let us see that once more. Now let us just see that once more. For example, you can see here in this figure, in this scene, it's a scene from an Indian movie. For example, the cartridges were dropped, and these are the cartridges. Now the dogs are going, and they can sense that some beef or some pork is there, or the people believe that now some beef or pork is being there. That's why the dogs are attracted to it. Okay, so that is the idea. So now the both Hindus and the Muslims are now very much angered. The long-term resentments were already there, and these resentments also did not help them, and it was a trigger point for them to launch this sepoy revolt. So this is being the causes of it. Now let us see some of the events which led to the 1857 revolt. Now, for example, in Barampur in West Bengal in 8 February 1857, they revolted. Mangal Pandey, very famous figure from which the scene was taken, was the movie Mangal Pandey, The Legend of Mangal Pandey. I think that's the movie name. So he was executed in April 8. He revolted against this idea of this infield rifle. Then at the Meerut on 24th April, the cavalry refused to accept the grease cartridge. Then May 9th, 90 people, those who have refused, out of which 85 have been dismissed and imprisoned. And on the 10th May, they say that is no more. We will go for the mutiny. So they killed their local officials in Meerut. Okay? They killed their local officials in Meerut, and from Meerut they go to Delhi. Only 58 kilometers from Delhi. So from Meerut they go to Delhi. So they killed their local British officials and they go to Delhi. Now going to Delhi, they put Bahadur Shah Jafar as the symbolic head. They killed the officials at the Delhi, and Bahadur Shah Jafar was proclaimed the emperor of the India. Now, when the emperor of the India was proclaimed, now the Sepoy mutiny became a revolutionary war. Why? Earlier, Sepoy mutinies were happening at a local level. They killed a few Englishmen, they were imprisoned and something like that. But now they have put their political connotation. No, we do not want your rule. We want to have a political authority of our choice. And that political authority is no one but the Mughal authority. This started as the trigger point that we have seen. We started as a religious overtone. For example, these greased cartridges, these pork and the allegedly pork and the beef filled. But now this religious overtone has been converted into a perception of the British as a common enemy, which needs to be fought altogether. ठीक? Bahadur Shah later on wrote some letters to the chief and the rulers to fight against the Britishers. So this was the Bahadur Shahs as a choice of the Bahadur Shah as symbolic head. Later on, so these are the Sepoy component of it. When the Sepoy have shown this and the Bahadur Shah has accepted unwillingly, he was 70 years old, he was very old. Unwillingly, he has accepted it. Now the civilians will join in, because no civilians already have those long-term grievances within them. They just need a flag, banner to rally behind them. So they found leaders in different places. Now all the peasants, artisans, shopkeepers, petty zamindar, out of those, the lands are taken. Tolakdars in Awadh, they will join in for the revolt. So you can see that major area of the focus. You can see this is Meerut, this is Delhi, like that. Okay. And then major area Bareilly, Lucknow, Kanpur, Sirampur in Bihar. These are the major areas of the revolt, the north. Now, from the pilgrim's perspective, we should need to remember the different people associated with the revolt at different places. For example, in Delhi, you have the Bakht Khan. Delhi, you have this Bahadur Shah Jafar, but he was only a de facto authority. He was the only de jure authority. The real authority was in the hand of the General Bakht Khan. Then in the Bareilly, you have Khan Bahadur. In Kanpur, you have Nana Sahib. In Lucknow, you have Begum Hazrat Mahal. In Bihar, you have Kunwar Singh, who was Zamindar. In Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai Tatya Tope. Faizabad, Maulvi Ahmadullah. So these are the few names that you must know. Chalo, let us discuss the story one by one. Now in Delhi, nominal and symbolic leadership belongs to the Mughal emperor, that is Bahadur Shah. The real commander was General Bakht Khan. We have discussed that. Okay, who led the revolt of the Bareilly troops and brought them to Delhi. Now the codes they have made, out of which the 6 are from army and 4 are from the civilian departments. The court conducted the affairs of the state in the name of the emperor. So a sort of a provisional government was made, right? Okay. Now, Emperor Bahadur Shah, weakest link in the chain, very old personality, weak personality, lack of leadership. So this obviously created a problem. And obviously we'll see Delhi will be captured very early. Then in Kanpur, remember Baji Rao II, the maverick Peshwa, who first of all signed the treaty. Then in 1818, he finally lost the battle. So Baji Rao II's adopted son, that is Peshwa, Nana Sahib, and he was banished from Pune and he was living in the Kanpur. Kanpur, maybe there's a, if you have been to the Kanpur, the Bithur is a place, very beautiful place. Bithur is a place where he was situated. Now he was expelled from the British from the Kanpur. He expelled the British from the Kanpur and proclaimed himself as Peshwa and acknowledged Bahadur Shah as the Emperor of India and declared himself to be his governor. Sir Hugh Wheeler, commanding the station, surrendered and killed on the same day. So he was killed in the Kanpur, the British official who was there. So Nana Sahib was the authority or the rallying point in the Kanpur. Then in the Lucknow, in my hometown, you have the Begum Hazrat Mahal. She was the wife of the Nawab who was annexed on the pretext of the misgovernance by the Lord Dalhousie. So Begum Hazrat Mahal took the reins in Lucknow, where the rebellion broke out in June. Don't have to remember the name. Popular sympathy was in the favor of the deposed Nawab because people liked the Nawab. He was the one who, in fact, we have discussed in the current affairs, Kathak ko, he was the one who patronized the Kathak. So his son proclaimed the Nawab and regular administration was organized with important officials shared equal Muslim, Hindus and Muslims. Henry Lawrence took shelter in residency. There is a place in Lucknow, residency. So there they were there. The Britishers were surrounded, got themselves covered in the residency. And the Indians became the siege of that residency. Residency is a place in which British are there and the Indians have got the siege of it. And they have killed the Sir Henry. Tick. Finally, the new commander-in-the-chief evacuated the Europeans with the help of the Gorkha regiment in March 1858. The city was finally recovered from the British, but guerrilla activity continued till the September that very year. So residency is a very famous historical place that is there in Lucknow. Next, we talk about Bareilly. So Bareilly, you remember the area of the Rohilkhand. We have discussed that in the times of the Warren Hastings, the war of the Rohilkhand. So the Bareilly Khan Bahadur, a descendant of former ruler of Rohilkhand, was placed in command. Not enthusiastic about the pension being granted by the Britishers, he organized army and stiff resistance. Next is Jagdishpur in the Bihar. In the whole Bihar, so Kunwar Singh, an old zamindar. So zamindar, right, who have deprived them of his estates were taken from him, and he said, okay, unwillingly, but he joined the sepoys. Okay, fine, I will give you the leadership. So now you are finding a lot of people, the leaders, for example, in Faizabad, whose name is now recently changed to Ayodhya. Ayodhya is here only, nearby Lucknow, only 120 kilometers from my home. So Maulvi Ahmadullah of Faizabad was another outstanding leader of the revolt. He was a native of the Madras and has moved to Faizabad in the north, where he fought a stiff battle against the British troops. He emerged as one of the revolt's acknowledged leader once it broke out in the Awadh in May 1857. So he was the one who gave the stiff resistance here in Faizabad. Then everybody knows the legend of the Rani Jhansi ki Rani, right? In Jhansi, she was there. She became victim to Lord Dalhousie's doctrine of lapse, right? After her husband Raja Gangadhar Rao died and annexed the state by application of the infamous doctrine of lapse, she said, I will not give away my Jhansi. And she was joined by Tatya Tope, a close associate of Nana Sahib. So Jhansi ki Rani and Tatya Tope marched towards the Gwalior, where they were held by the Indian soldiers. The Sindhia, the local ruler, decided to side with the British and took shelter in Agra. So Sindhia was a very important person here. So Sindhia did not help the Rani Lakshmi Bai and they helped the Britishers. We will also see a comment from Canning who will say that if Sindhia would have given the support to Rani Jhansi ki Rani Lakshmi Bai, we have to pack. We'll see that statement. So Nana Sahib was proclaimed as Peshwa and the plan was chalked out for that we need to work out and we will need to elongate this revolt. And later on, we will see how this Jhansi was also being taken up. Now, the suppression part, obviously, the British slowly and slowly took each and every place. For example, in September 1857 itself, so May it started in September, within 3 to 4 months, they have captured the Delhi. One Britishers who fought there, John Nicholson, died. That angered the Britishers. And then the son and the grandson of the Bahadur Shah Jafar were killed by Hudson on the spot. And Bahadur Shah Jafar was captured and sent to Rangoon. So Delhi was captured, and that was the nerve center. And when Delhi was captured, rest of the things has to follow. Then, not this. Then December 1857, Colin Campbell recaptured the Kanpur. Some of the names you have to remember. Some of the names, not all. Few of the Britishers' names also you have to remember. The UPSC won't ask it, but some state PCS questions tend to ask such questions. So Nana Sahib escaped to Nepal. Tatya Tope joined Lakshmi Bai. After Kanpur fell, Tatya Tope, who was first helping the Nana Sahib, went to help the Rani Lakshmi Bai. And in March 1858, Lucknow was recaptured. Then April 1858, fall of Jhansi Ki Rani Lakshmi Bai, she defeated and died. Tatya also escaped and he was betrayed where he went and he was executed. For example, someone gave information about Tatya Tope and he was also executed by the Britishers. If you want to go into the stories of it, obviously you can go, but no purpose to read such stories. We cannot, there is not useful. Then finally, in the July 1858 and after that, everyone died. The Bareilly was captured, Jagdishpur was captured, all the leaders, they dead. Whether they killed or they escaped or executed. So with this, the finally revolt come to an end within, you can say, within 1 year or like 13, 14 months. So it's still an event of 1 year, 13, 14 months, but still it has a lot of significance. We'll discuss that in the next time. Now, next question comes, why they failed actually. They were different from earlier revolts because they have some sort of, it was not like that we are revolting here and we don't know what is happening here. They tried to create some sort of a network, Tatya Tope, Lakshmi Bai here in Bihar and Bareilly to Delhi, Meerut to Delhi. These things are already there. So they tried to create some sort of a network, but ultimately it was not successful. There were a lot of reasons for their failure. Let us see one by one. So first, if we talk about overall, so it lacked the uniform ideology that what should be when we are fighting against an authority. For example, we are fighting against the Britishers. So we need to fight against, we need to have a, for example, yes, we will fight, but what about after it? So they did not have a uniform ideology. It was just a reactionary, you can say. It was just reactionary. The whole thing was the reactionary. There was no forward looking agenda, what should be there. In fact, they went into restorative form, giving the authority to the Bahadur Shah Jafar, who himself was weak, fragile, very weak leadership qualities. So very reactionary. Then not inclusive participation. Inclusive participation was not there. For example, you see only the revolt happening in the North India, where what about South and these places? No participation. One of the reasons was that one of the problems was with the high caste Hindus. So in these, for example, in your South presidency, a lot of lower caste also the part of the sepoys. At that time, because you have no employment, so having the sepoy was a symbol of prestige. If you are a sepoy of the British, it was a symbol of prestige. So a lot of high caste people become the sepoys. But in the South, a lot of lower caste, and they have no such concern that crossing the sea will be, our caste will be gone, and they have no such concerns. Apart from that, a lot of classes, for example, we have seen the Scindia. He did not join. He helped the Britishers. We will see the intellectual class. They did not join. Why? Because they feel that these people do not have a long-term vision. What these people will do. Intellectual class join only and only if they can see the future forward-looking agenda. If they don't see that, they don't join in. And when they join, then they create future-looking agenda. So that's the vicious cycle, basically. Then obviously, British were superior. They have very able journal. They were trained to do that. They were having the mindset to, we have to crush these rebellions. They have the experience how to crush these rebellions. We have seen a lot of revolts being crushed before that. They have a better weapons. For example, someone is fighting with bow and arrow and stones, and they are having good rifles and everything. They have the resources to fight. And lastly, lack of planning and leadership. Planning and leadership by the Bahadur Shah Jafar, for example. They have no leadership, no coordination. So these are the problems being faced. For example, if you see the statement of the Canning said that if Scindia joins the mutiny, I shall have to pack tomorrow. Now the 1857 was more in feudal in nature rather than having some national. Some have a nationalist element. For example, you can say, let's say Bakht Khan, or you can say Rani Lakshmi Bai or Begum Hazrat Mahal, but they are in their feudal nature only. The zamindar joined to restore their own lost prestige. That's it. For example, the feudal element of Awadh, Rohilkhand, some parts of North India led the rebellion, while other feudal princes like Raja of Patiala, Zind, Gwalior, Hyderabad helped in the suppression. The European historians greatly surprised Sir Dinkar Rao, Minister of Gujarat, Gwalior, Salar Jung, the Wazir of Hyderabad, for their loyalty. Right? Now, Canning also said, those who will help us, we will give them the favorable things. If you help us, we will give you favorable things. For example, Indian princes were amply rewarded who helped in suppression of the rebellion. Districts of Berar were introduced to the Nizams. So Sindhia, Gaikwad and Rajput princes also received some rewards on the concessions. Okay, let us very quickly do whatever the point that we have discussed. So lack of uniform ideology, no nationalism. They have a very poor understanding of the colonial rule, that what this colonial rule and the roots of this colonial rule are. No forward looking program, no alternative, only the personal reasons and the grudges and the reactionary forces were dominant. Then lack of planning and leadership, poor arms and equipments. Bahadur Shah was a relic of the past, poorly organized and coordination. A lot of caste issues that we have discussed, the lower caste versus the upper caste. Then the British weapons leader, communication was better. For example, they'll get with the electrical telegraph introduced by Lord Dalhousie. They'll get to know that what is the movement of these rebels. They'll get to know where Tatya Tope, let us say, is there, and they were united in their strategy. Then not inclusive participation, limited territorial ambit, we have seen, and all classes did not join. For example, big zamindars, their sons will be brickwaters to the storm. So they are the, basically we have discussed that with permanent settlement they have created a new allied class, isn't it? A new allies. Our Tolakdar, for example, when the Britishers said, okay, we'll restore you. So earlier they were participating in the revolt. Said, okay, fine. We don't have to fight with these people. So these are the reasons of their failure. So this is one of the timelines which you can forward. You can read, you can pause the video, or you can see in the PDF. You can read this particular timeline. Okay? Some of the names that, for example, in February, mutiny in the Behrampur, mutiny of the inmate, and 10th May. In Meerut, then they went to Delhi, outbreaks in Delhi and other places, mutiny in Gwalior, other places, July May mutiny in Indore, then it follows, then the re-establishment. So the rise and then the fall of the mutiny. Okay? So that's the end of the question. Let us do some questions. Some mains question you can try. For example, the 1857 uprising was a culmination of the recurrent big and small local rebellions that have occurred in the preceding 100 years of the British rule. Preceding 100 years means recurrent, big and small local rebellions. So 1857, and they want to talk to about 1857. So all the revolts which have happened from 1757 to 1857, you have to talk with them and you have to tell them that how it was a culmination of these. So you can talk about the tribal revolt, peasant revolt, sepoy mutiny, and all these things. Very good answer can be written. Please do try to write this answer and get it evaluated as well. The war of 1857 was much more than just a sepoy mutiny or a peasant revolt examine. So, for example, the significance of the revolt, for example, we'll see in the next session. From there, you'll get some ideas how to write this particular session. One thing I can tell you, for example, I'll give you around 30 to 30 or 45, 40 question at max, 40 to 50 at max. If you are able to do all the questions, even if not the answer, but the points of it, and if you're able to revise from the PDF, your modern history is more than done for mains and pre both. Nothing else to be done. So let us do some questions. With respect to the course of the revolt of 1857, consider the following statements. The revolt began in Delhi. The banner of the revolt was raised under the name of the Bahadur Shah. Sorry. The revolt found as the Emperor of India. Revolt found strength from Hindu-Muslim unity and the support of the modern educated class. Which of the following statements are correct? Pause the video and try to answer the question. If you have listened to the session attentively, you will be able to answer it. Now, it's a very easy question. So revolt began in Delhi? No, it began in Meerut, then started to Delhi. So first statement is wrong. Second statement is right. Obviously, Bahadur Shah. The third statement, yes, strength is from Hindu-Muslim unity, but the second part is wrong. It did not find the support with the modern educated class. So the answer is very easy. For example, main strength of the revolt lay in the Hindu-Muslim unity. It was a complete cooperation between the Hindus and the Muslim, wherein all the rebels recognized the Bahadur Shah as the Muslim ruler, as their emperor. For example, you can give the example of Peshwa. Peshwa himself said, I am the governor and Bahadur Shah Jafar is the emperor. Then both Hindu and Muslim showed respect towards each other's sentiments because both were seeing the Cartridge was both beef and pork. Then modern educated Indians did not support the revolt as they were repelled by the rebels' appeal to the superstitions and their opposition to the progressive social measures. So statement 2 is right only. Let us do the next question. Which of the following event happened prior to the revolt of 1857? Vellore Mutiny, Santhal Rebellion, and the Sepoy Mutiny at the Barakpur. Very easy question. Vellore Mutiny, you can pause the video and try the answer. Now, Vellore Mutiny happened in 1806, Santhal 1855, 1856, and the Sepoy Mutiny 1824. So 1806, Sepoy Mutiny at Vellore, 1824, Barakpur, and the last we know Santhal. So Vellore Mutiny 1806, and you can, okay, all the three are happened before 1857. A few of the questions can be asked like that: events before 1857 and event after 1857. For example, a lot of revolts have happened after 1857. For example, we'll see Indigo Revolt, Munda Rebellion, Deccan Riots. So you have to read a lot of revolts later on also. So this is what one thing you have to maintain. What are the revolts have happened 1857, before 1857, and what have happened post 1857. Next question is, with reference to the revolt of 1857, consider the following statements. During the revolt, Bombay and the Madras army remained loyal to the Britishers. Bombay and the Madras army remained loyal to the Britishers. The Malabar region in the south was one of the nerve center of the 1857 revolt. Pause and try the answer. It's a very straightforward question. Statement 2, for example, Malabar region, have you seen any south participation? Answer is no. We have not seen any south participation. So we have discussed that because of this particular act, and the problem with this enlistment act was only with the higher caste. Lower caste did not have any problem. So the soldiers in the Bombay and the Madras, which had recruits from the lower caste, remained loyal to the British government. So caste issues and religion regions of the south were south of Narmada was very less impacted. Only the Gwalior you can see impacted, then nothing else was impacted. So answer is yes, they remained loyal. Statement is true, and it was one of the nerve center. Wrong. So statement 1 is right. Last question. With reference to the revolt of 1857, consider the following pair: leader and the center of the 1857 revolt. Nana Sahib in Kanpur, Khan Bahadur in Faizabad, Kunwar Singh in Bihar, Begum Hazrat Mahal in Lucknow. Pause and try. Now, in Faizabad, who was there? He was not Khan Bahadur, he was Maulavi Ahmadullah. And in the, what is the option? Khan Bahadur was there in the Bareilly. So these are the names that you need to remember and where they were there. Okay? Chalo. So answer is only first all the three are remaining are fine, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. So with this, we finish our session for today. We discussed the Sepoy Mutiny 1857 revolts. Next session will be relatively small. There we'll talk about the significance of the 1857 revolt, and there we'll talk about how it was a watershed event and what are the Britishers have brought the changes, some of the changes, not all the changes, because we have to talk about the Indian reaction. So some of the changes that Britishers have done. And in the last session, we'll talk about the theme 3, we'll talk about the socio-economic reform or the ideological reactions of the Indians. So with this, we finish the session. See you all in the next session. Bye-bye. Thank you.